so I can start this conversation. So first of all, LaFawn, thank you so much to accepting Indeed's Brazil invitation. It's an honor to have the opportunity to interview you.
It's an honor for me to be here, Felipe. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's start. The world is crazy right now. Everything going on, pandemic, and unemployment rate that is higher than usual. Mm-hmm. And of course, the unfortunate murder of George Floyd that triggered protests, and diversity is now the biggest topic for everybody. But I don't see another way to start this conversation with not asking you how you're doing.
That's a heavy question, Felipe, for all of the reasons that you mentioned. There is a lot going on around us. There's the pandemic, there's economic uncertainty, I think around the world. There is the civil unrest after George Floyd's killing, and lots of other incidents like that happening, I think, around the world. You know, we're all unsure about what our new world looks like after we come out of, I think, COVID-19. And, you know, we're all holding on to something pretty heavy. Everyone is going through some form of all of the things that we both mentioned. So, and you said, you know, diversity is top of mind for a lot of companies right now. So although it feels like I've been training for this for my entire career, it is a lot at one time. And a lot of companies are seeking ways to have diversity strategy within their organization. So it's go time, but it's also pretty heavy for people who are doing this work. Because you're holding on to the things that are personal and what is happening around you in your own community, and then you're also trying to move your company forward. So I am both I'm exhausted, I'm also inspired, and so balancing those things to see if we can create an even better world coming out of this is kind of a mix of all of those things.
Okay. Can you please tell us more about your career, and why did you choose to work with diversity, inclusion, and belonging?
Sure. So my career started off in the first technology wave in Silicon Valley. So I started off in operations because efficiency is very important to me. Strategy is very important to me, and that's actually where I started my career. It wasn't until I got into a space where I became a leader of an employee resource group, where I saw the power of diversity and how it could change a company and how it could actually make business impact. And that was exciting to me. I never worked for a company before or even knew that diversity was a field that I could get into. And so just kind of watching the transformation really helped ignite my passion in this space, and seeing how, you know, the focus on attracting, recruiting, retaining, and developing a diverse workforce actually took some intention to do that. So started off my career there, and did a lot of jobs within it. Was kind of within HR and a business partner role, worked within employee engagement and experience. At one point, I thought I was going to change my career because I was tired. I was tired of explaining why this work was so important and how it actually makes a company better, how it makes the workforce better, how you make more money. And more innovative products. And I was a little tired. So I figured I'm going to change my career and I'm going to go into communications, because I also see the value of great communications with your employees, with the communities around you, and with your core customers. And I did that for a little bit until I was pulled back into this work. I do believe it's a calling of mine. So I'm glad that I get to do it for work. But I feel like it's such a personal passion to not only make companies better with what we do, but also to affect the world around me. So it's been a long kind of career in that space. I say, 15 years ago, when I first started doing diversity work, it really was just about the workforce and how can we recruit more of certain demographics to come into the company. I think companies started to realize that as diversity would come in, it would walk out the door a year or two later because the environment wasn't a welcoming one. It wasn't an environment of which people could thrive, where their voice was heard, where they actually were included in business decisions. And then now we're moving into the space of belonging, which I think is really important for employees to want to stay because they feel like they belong there. Who they are and what they care about is important to the company. So there's definitely been an evolution in this work over the past 15 years. I think our end state is equality, right? We want to get to equality, but there's a lot of work that has to happen for us to get there. So it's been a great career. It's been an interesting career now to be in this space with all the work that I've done, but there's nowhere else I'd rather be.
And speaking as a employee, I can tell you this: everyone in the company feel your passion to these topics and feel the impact on daily basis. My team absolutely loves everything that we've been doing recently. So congratulations and thank you on that.
Thank you, Felipe.
Yeah. Can you please elaborate and tell in your perspective the differences between diversity, inclusion, and belonging?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking, because sometimes it feels like they mean the same things depending on the company that you work for. And so definitions can vary. I will say that definitions can vary, but the way that we look at diversity at Indeed is diversity is about reflecting the global communities in which we operate. We believe that teams with different work styles, problem-solving techniques, and life experiences and backgrounds and perspectives and skill sets are what make innovation possible. You know, we have a saying at Indeed that yesterday's best is not good enough for tomorrow's Indeed. And a lot of that has to do with the people that are going to build our products, sell our products, and support all of it. So we need to have a mix of all of those skill sets and perspectives, and actually to be an even better company than we are right now. Inclusion is about the intentional actions and behaviors that create a culture where employees feel valued, trusted, authentic. They feel like their voice is heard and they can contribute fully and thrive. Now we talk about belonging, which is a newer word in this space. Belonging is about a feeling of community with the people and environments that make us feel connected. To me, it's an outcome of diversity and inclusion plus psychological safety. Am I safe to be able to innovate, to give new ideas, to learn and grow, to push against the status quo, to actually come with a different perspective? That's what psychological safety is about. And it really does create a sense of belonging. When you can look around and say, I belong here. The work that I do matters. My team recognizes who I am, and I'm celebrated for it. I'm valued for it. I feel connected to other people. And it's not just how you identify, right? I normally like to start off in my introduction of myself with my layers, my different identities. None of us are a binary identity. No one's just a woman. No one is just a man. So normally I like to share that I am Black, I am queer, I am a woman, I am a parent of an adult child, I am of a mature age. All of those things really align to lots of different ways that I view the world and I experience the workplace. And so sometimes you connect with people that have nothing to do with how you identify. I connect to people who are funny. I connect to people who like conspiracy theories because I think they're interesting. I'm connected to the company mission. So your company mission, the ways that you work and what you work for can bring people together and create a sense of belonging as well. So belonging is a little new and we're still figuring out all the ways that we can help people feel that. But those are the definition of those three words.
Thank you. Yeah. And so my next question would be like how to create a belonging culture, but I feel like it's so complex and I'm intrigued about your last answer. So I would switch to how can we build psychological safety in the company? Seems to be super important. It is, but and it seems really hard, right? How can we as a company help every employee to develop psychological safety?
Yeah, thank you, Felipe. So psychological safety has been studied probably for the last 20 years or so, and companies are starting to understand how important it is for innovation. And what psychological safety means is that employees do not have fear of negative consequences if they do ask questions so they can learn more, if they push against the status quo. So let's innovate and do things differently. Let's do things differently than we've done before. In order to give fresh ideas, new ideas, different ideas, not having fear of being made feel inadequate or feeling, kind of silly for giving a new idea, or feeling like they're not smart or intelligent because they're asking questions to learn more. When we have an environment of psychological safety and trust, it's a little bit different. So Felipe, I can say, I trust you. I know that if you tell me you're going to do something next week, you're going to do it. But psychological safety is a team construct. So it is the belief that my teammates, my manager are going to give me the benefit of the doubt so that I can do all of those things that I mentioned, ask questions, learn, push against status quo. And there's been a lot of research on psychological safety, and most notably probably a great report put out by Google, I think in 2015 or 2016, around psychological safety. So big research on what is it that actually creates high-performing teams. And most people would say it's diversity. It's not diversity, because without psychological safety, diversity cannot thrive. Diversity will be there, and you'll have lots of people with different perspectives and great ideas who will not feel safe bringing those ideas forward. The reason diversity is important is to add a new mix of all of those things that you don't currently have on your teams in your company. And so setting psychological safety is actually the foundation for diversity and inclusion to work.
That's so special. And I have actually a great example. It happens to me yesterday. So yesterday, I won't go into details, but yesterday I had a meeting with someone on your team, and I felt really, really good on sharing my idea. I felt safe. So it's happening, and it feels great to pitch an idea, and it feels heard, right? So it was great. And regarding and around that topic, can you please tell us about your team? What's the team structure? How you prioritize actions?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because a lot of times, CHROs and other diversity professionals are really interested. My team is organized a little differently than some traditional diversity and inclusion teams. So when I first came into Indeed, we were very focused on inclusion for all the reasons I mentioned before, trying to create that environment where people feel like they can thrive, with the understanding that that is actually what is going to draw diversity to you. We pivoted once I arrived at Indeed to diversity, inclusion, and belonging in some different areas. So we have diversity, inclusion, and belonging business partners. So these are folks who work with business leaders. They talk about the function and the team. They look at data around the workforce. They look at data around retention. And are people growing throughout the organization? Are they being promoted in an equitable way? Are there any issues that we should tackle, like things around psychological safety? So they're specifically operationalizing diversity, inclusion, and belonging within the company. I also have what's called IRG program managers. So that's Inclusion Resource Group program managers, similar to employee resource groups or business resource groups, but basically communities that actually help to create business impact. So I have managers of those. I have some DI&B, so diversity, inclusion, and belonging generalists that really help to execute across the company. We have a focus of the employee life cycle. So how do we attract, recruit, retain, and develop a more diverse workforce? How do we make sure that we're focused on having diversity in leadership, because representation matters, right? And how do we make sure that people are growing throughout the organization? We also have a focus on operations. I told you early in my career, that's where it started. And so it was really important for me to have a focus of efficiency and accountability within my team and infusing that within the rest of Indeed. We're also focused on kind of communications and brand and content design. This is where my communications hat comes in very handy, because it's really important that we tell stories. Storytelling is a powerful agent for change. And so it's a great way to actually help other people understand someone else's life experiences and increase empathy within the organization. And then we're also focused on accessibility for people with disabilities and product inclusion. So how can we create features and products that help our job seekers and help our clients do even more on Indeed products? So that's how my team has kind of expanded their scope beyond just general diversity inclusion programs within HR. It's really kind of seen as a business imperative to help do this across the company.
Awesome. And I think that reflects how important the topic is for us, right? And about that, what was the diversity and inclusion and belonging challenges 10 years ago comparing to right now? What do you see evolved in this past 10 years?
Yeah, there is I think more of a focus on the environment and the way that employees actually feel. So just like in our engagement survey, most of the time there's normally a question around, would you recommend this as an inclusive place to work? Or there'll be questions about, do we build diverse teams? Or we feel like we belong? But honestly, taking a look at psychological safety, taking a look at team dynamics and how people actually work is, I think, becoming the new focus. Doesn't take away from the focus on diversity at all. There has to be intentional actions in order to create equity in how we hire, but really looking inside and seeing if we have the type of environment in which employees can thrive, I think is where a lot of companies are starting to move towards. It costs a lot of money to recruit, right? So a standard cost per hire would be like $10,000 a person. That's on all the recruiting materials, bringing them in, the process, the onboarding. There's a lot of money involved in just one hire. So you multiply that times the amount of hires that you may have for your organization, and that should tell you like this, it's actually big money to hire someone. And so I've seen companies spend millions of dollars on trying to hire a more diverse workforce, and that money is gone as you have to keep rehiring a year later because you don't have an environment that's welcoming. So I think the trend has started to become, okay, we want to hire more diversity, but we really need to focus internally first to make sure that it is a healthy environment.
Makes sense, makes sense. And so what do HR and TI leaders need to think about now to ensure they are creating and nurturing an environment that's truly inclusive for all employees? So it's kind of your tip for everybody to do their job now.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a few things I think you can do. I think what we all know is that this work is pretty vast and there's a lot of things that you can do. But I think right now, here are some things that are really important. The first thing is don't ignore what's happening. I think a lot of times at work, we have been conditioned to not focus or deal with what is happening in the world around us. We don't talk about social change. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about certain things that don't subscribe to the actual job or roles of employees. And oftentimes companies will want to stay out of it because it's deemed political. But your employees are your greatest assets. They are your greatest assets beyond the products that you have to sell, beyond the service you may provide. Your employees are your greatest assets. And so understanding what's going on in the world around you, do not ignore it and don't be silent, because your employees are actually holding all of those things and trying to balance what is happening in the world around them and their job. And it's a heavy, heavy burden. Excuse me. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to balance. And so not ignoring what's happening signals to your employees that they're important to you. The next thing I would say, specifically with where we are with civil unrest and what is happening with Black employees, pay close attention to not only what's happening right now, but some of the historical context behind it. And the reason I'm saying understand that is not that it is on your shoulders to fix the world, but again, it gives you a better understanding of what of the trauma that they may be holding, what could be holding them back from being their best employee for you. I'll get some water. Then, once you have some of that understanding and you're educating yourselves on what it is, then focus on long-term systemic change. Often we'll see all of this energy. Oh my goodness, all this stuff is happening, the pandemics and the stuff. And it's so much around us, and we want to do things quickly that we think are going to make a difference. When honestly, the systems that have been put into place, no matter what country you're in, have been put into place so long ago that it is going to take a long time to actually affect the change that matters. So yes, you can do things like show your support. Yes, you may change some verbiage here and there or some programs here and there, but focusing on what is going to create an equitable experience long-term is going to take some really heavy work. There's no statement you can put out one time. There's no thing you can say one time that is going to change the systemic issues in place. So focus on those things that really, really matter. Take a close look at your data. Take a close look at how your programs are running. So, do you have equitable ways of recruiting people? Are you screening people out for their differences, or are you celebrating those and welcoming them into your company? As you look at things like performance and promotion, are people moving through those things? Is there bias within the way that those programs have been developed? Really analyzing them with the lens of, let's remove bias, let's remove the barriers to entry into our organization. So taking a look at those things is really important, and it's a good time to do it because there's so much happening in the world around us. This is a great focus, right? We're not moving super fast. A lot of companies aren't hiring as fast as they were, so it's a great time to reflect on those programs. I think a really big one, honestly, Felipe, is educating ourselves. A lot of us want to be allies for everything we don't identify with, and that is a beautiful thing. But taking a step to educate ourselves without leaning on those groups that are already marginalized is really important. You have the time. There's so much research and data. There's great books you can read. There are podcasts you can listen to. There are documentaries you can watch, articles you can read in order to understand what's happening and how really to push wonderful systemic change forward. And then lastly, I would say, make a personal commitment. Right? That personal commitment can be felt throughout your entire organization, and create a space where employees feel not only safe, but they can feel brave in telling you what's on their mind, in demanding change, They shouldn't fear retaliation for demanding that their companies stand forth and create an environment of equality. And so if you create that space where employees feel like their voices can be heard, you won't be able to do everything about it, but at least create the space so that employees don't have fear for that. Maybe they need some extra support, right? At our company, we've created what's called Brave Spaces, and we've invited psychologists, psychiatrists, trauma experts to come in and actually help the healing process of employees, all types of employees, not just the Black community, all of our communities that are underserved, underrepresented, and marginalized. As we mentioned, as we keep talking about, there's a lot going on. So making sure that there's space for employees to actually start the healing process will make them even better output for you. Even they're gonna stay longer, they're gonna do more, they're gonna work harder because you've actually invested in their care.
I love it. Everything, especially the educating part. So I'm trying to do it myself, trying to read and try to talk to friends and see what everybody's learning. So can you share a book that you recommend for us to, like for the audience to read, that you think it's a good way to educate ourselves?
Actually, what I'll do, Felipe, and we can share this with the attendees, I will send you a list of resources. So what we focused on at Indeed to start was around anti-Black racism. And I have a whole list that we actually sent to managers to help managers understand how to navigate this space. It could be scary to understand what to do. Do I do anything? Do I say something? Do I not say something? So helping managers understand how to be open and allow for conversation to happen if your employees are comfortable. And then there's a whole bunch of resources around documentaries and books and podcasts and other things that could be of interest. And I'm happy to share that manager guide. And we can send it to the participants here if they're interested. And then there's other curriculum that we'll be rolling out on, I say, all the isms and phobias. So racism, sexism, ageism, all of the isms and phobias like homophobia, transphobia, etc. And we're going to start as a company to learn more about all of these things so that we can increase empathy. So I'm happy to start to share those resources with you, and you can share them with the rest of the participants here.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
What about, so for sure, we can notice that Indeed really, this topic really matters for our CEO, our board, and pretty much all the SLT. Do you have any suggestions for the folks that are here? Because in some cases, the leadership is not bought in yet on that. Some companies start implementing a diversity area because it's trendy or because someone told them it has an ROI. So what can those executives do to start, I would say, selling this idea and to the leadership?
Yeah, so that's actually a great question. And every company is on their own journey in this space, right? Some are full in, they have full programs, they have a well-oiled machine. Others are just kind of starting out here. And maybe it started because employees have said, hey, this is important to us. Maybe there are some communities or groups who have gotten together. Maybe there is a leader, one leader, maybe it's you in the organization that has said, hey, this is important. So it really does depend where you are on the journey, but understand that it is a journey. There is always going to be work to do in this space. So understanding that it's not going to be solved in a quarter, it's not going to be solved in 6 months, long-term change. So you can start there. Understand where your company is on their journey. And if you are amongst the people who get it and the rest of your executive team does not, it's okay, because you can start there. It's really important to get leadership on board, because leadership role models the behaviors that you'd like to see throughout the organization. They set the tone, and they are the carriers of culture throughout the organization as well. So have a real conversation with the leaders, the rest of the leaders in your organization, not in front of the entire company, right? Because we want to create a safe space and we want there to be psychological safety, and allow them to be honest. It is much better to understand how someone truly feels than to have a smile on their face and do something else in the corner. So allow people the safety and the space to be honest about where they are on their journey. And then talk about kind of the business impact that diversity makes within an organization. So sometimes that's looking up research and data that says, you know, diversity does create environments where there is innovation, and teams that have more diversity create better products and services. Because if you are serving a global community, or even if you're serving a community within your country, having that perspective on your team will allow you to create things that serve your customers better. There's lots of research and data that shows sales teams that have better and different perspectives gain new market share. They're actually able to get new business than they weren't before because they think of things differently. There's lots of different perspectives on the team. So I would say start there. A lot of times when we talk about the business case for diversity, nobody argues with the bottom line. It's not about social justice. It's not about, you know, talking about politics. It is literally talking about your business strategy and whether or not you want to be a better company today than in 10 years than you are today. And so I think if you know, specifically with leadership, talking about that, talking about your workforce and what you want it to look like and who you want to serve, that's a great place to begin the journey if you're not already on it. And then you can start to work around what things do you need to intentionally put into place to move that strategy forward. So if you want a more diverse workforce, if you want to create equity within your workforce, what are the things that you need to do? If you need to create more innovative products, well, what do you need to add to your team to give you different perspectives? And again, it's not just how someone identifies personally. It could be that someone comes from a different industry. It could be that someone has a slightly different skill set than what you already have. And sometimes I will bring up other companies as business cases. So one of the great business cases that I bring up is YouTube. A lot of people use YouTube for videos, and there was a time when YouTube rolled out their application for the iPhone. And when they did that, 10% of the videos were uploaded upside down. You might go, what? Like, why? Why would that happen? Well, it's because the all right-handed engineering team didn't think about what left-handed people do to upload videos. So that's why they were uploaded upside down. Something as simple as a different perspective, right? Or when Apple Health rolled out their application, there was something very key missing around measuring one's health. They missed an entire market of over half the world to be able to measure the monthly cycle of women, because the all-male engineering team didn't have that perspective of women's health. So it's those types of things that often can draw executives in that might not be thinking about this. They might just be like, I have a business to run and that's what's important to me. Well, this is business. This actually will affect whether or not we're innovative. And I think, as we all know, if you're not innovative in 5 to 10, 15 years, your company will likely dissolve because someone else will innovate where you won't.
Fascinating. Thank you so much. And to the audience, I would say my last question, and then we can move to the Q&A, because I'm seeing there's lots of questions popping up. So how about Indeed products? How is your team influencing Indeed product team to suit diverse needs with our products?
Yeah, I love this question. I love this question because there's not a lot of D&I teams that are focused in the way that my team is. So one of our top priorities, one of our strategic pillars, actually I'll give you two of them. So one of them is around removing bias and barriers. So removing the bias that's inherently built into the products and the process of having an unbiased recruiting process, equal pay and promotion opportunities, things like that, and removing barriers to entry. Barriers to entry could be things like removing a college degree requirement where it makes sense, hiring people with non-traditional backgrounds. So I like to share here, I don't have a college degree and I'm a vice president. It is possible to get education elsewhere. It is possible to show that you have the experience and the strength without having that. So looking at non-traditional backgrounds and experiences is super important. And how do we do that within our products? And how do we help other customers do the same? One of the other pillars I have is to build inclusive teams and products. So I talked about, kind of shoring up managers and helping them build the culture of inclusion on the team with resources and education, but also infusing that within our products. What kind of features can we roll out to allow our job seekers to use our products even better and our clients to do the same? We're focused on accessibility, right? So that we can remove the barriers to entry for people with disabilities and really focus on making sure that all of our products, all of our surfaces that touch job seekers and clients are accessible, that they can use it with adaptive strategies and technologies, that they can use things like screen readers, that we turn on captions for Zoom meetings and things like that. It is a way to build inclusion in your products and your technology. And so my team is actually helping to lead a lot of those efforts along with the product and engineering and marketing teams across the company. And it's energizing, it's inspiring, because when you make your products work for everyone, then you ensure that no one is screened out. And particularly on the accessibility piece, we never want anyone to either lose or not have the ability to use our products at any given time. Our mission is that we help people get jobs. And wouldn't it be a shame to actually not help someone because our products aren't accessible to those with disabilities? So that's the focus. The focus is you remove bias and you remove barriers from our products, then we create a better space for our job seekers and our clients, and then we create a better space for the world.
I love to talk about products and the diversity around. So thank you so much for the first piece of our conversation. Mm-hmm. I'm learning a lot through our interview. So now let's switch to the audience questions.